परिया सेई हरि नाम मंत्रा लोइलो महिया हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 रामा राम राम हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा प्रभु जी थैंक यू प्रभु जी दंडवत प्रणाम
Thank you so much, Mataji, for wonderful rendition and completing the full bhajan. Very nice rendition, Mataji. Thank you so much.
थैंक यू प्रभु जी हरे कृष्णा
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. We'll start. Share my screen. Let's first recite the Anglacharan. Share my screen. Is this visible now? Okay. So I'll start. Om Madhyam Mirandasya Yanan Janashalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayyam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavansya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Vitansha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagat Patehe Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Thank you so much for joining in for this evening's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are in Canto 4, Chapter 20, verse number 11. So just to give a context around some of the verses that got covered, a little gist of where we stand today. So we last discussed in my previous class, we discussed, and I'm sure there are many classes that have gone up that may have happened after that. What got discussed was Prithu Maharaj was doing this Ashwamedha Yajna, and he was at the golden 99, trying to complete 100, and Indra intervened twice and tried to stop by posing a sannyasi, trying all the tricks that he has up his sleeve, and frustrating Prithu Maharaj, and Prithu Maharaj got after him, and finally the rishis advised that Indra should be excused and please don't go after him, don't go ahead and kill him. And it stopped at the figure of 99. Right? And it so happened later that as first of all, Lord Vishnu came along with Indra in the yajna, and he personally advised Prithu Maharaj to forgive Indra for his misadventure. And Prithu Maharaj, like a very pure devotee, immediately excused him. And Indra and Prithu Maharaj now is getting advice from Lord Vishnu as we go further in verse number 11, going up to 15. And these verses have been enriched by beautiful commentary and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada. So we'll go through some of these nectarian verses and we'll discuss these purports in some detail. So with that, we'll get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Udasinam ivadhyaksham dravyajnanam kriyatmanam kutastam imam atmanam yo vedapnoti shobhanam. Anybody wants to recite the shloka again? These are beautiful verses. Then we can get to anyone wants to recite the shloka? Yes, Divya Mataji, please go ahead.
Udasinamivadyaksham dravyajnana-kriyatmanam kutastami matmanam vyo veda proti shobhanam. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you. I think there are many people. I can't see who raised the hand in what order. Let me just see. 1 second. Whoever is raised, first, they may go ahead and read the translation, and then the next one can read the purport. Does it give the order? And yeah. Yes. Please go ahead.
Hare Krishna. 4.20.11.
Yes.
Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anyone who knows that this material body, made of the 5 gross elements, sense organs, the working senses, and the mind, is simply supervised by the fixed soul, is eligible to be liberated from material bondage.
Yes.
Shall I read the purport?
I think there are many people, Mataji, sorry.
Okay, Hare Krishna.
We'll go para by para so that everybody gets an opportunity. Whoever raised the hand second, because I can't see the order here. So please go ahead with the...
Prabhuji?
Yes, go ahead, Krishna Murthy Prabhu.
Purport by A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada ki jai. This verse describes how one can become liberated from material bondage. The first point is that one must know that the soul is different from his body. The soul is called Dehi, or one who possesses the body, and the material body is called Deha, or the embodiment of the soul. The body is changing at every moment, but the soul is fixed. Therefore, the soul is called Kutastaham. The change of body is enacted by the reactions of the 3 modes of nature. One who has understood the fixed position of the soul should not be disturbed by the incoming and outgoing interactions of the modes of material nature in the form of happiness and distress. In Bhagavad Gita also, Lord Krishna recommends that since happiness and distress come and go due to the interaction of the modes of nature on the body, one should not be disturbed by such external movements. Even though one is sometimes absorbed in such external movements, he has to learn to tolerate them. The living entity should be always indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. Hare Krishna Mat, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Krishna. Who wants to go next? The second para. Anybody?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes. Please go ahead, Prabhu.
Lord Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita that the body made of the gross physical elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, and the subtle elements, mind, intelligence, and ego, is completely different from the soul proper. One should therefore not be disturbed by the action and reaction of these 8 gross and subtle material elements. The practical process to attain this stage of indifference is to execute devotional service. Only one who constantly engages in devotional service 24 hours a day can be indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. When a man is absorbed in a particular thought, he does not hear or see any external activities, even though they are enacted in his presence. Similarly, those who are fully absorbed in devotional service do not care what is going on with the external body. That status is called samadhi. One who is actually situated in samadhi is understood to be a first-class yogi. Hare Krishna. Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. So please pardon me if I can't see the hands being raised and I'm not able to put you in a sequence. So please organize yourself. I really am unable to help. So whoever has raised the hand first, they can go in that order. Pardon me if I'm not able to organize this. Okay. So here, there is this whole purport is structured in two parts. The first part talks about the philosophy. The second part talks about the application. Right? And Prabhupada has always been so merciful that he never talks about dry philosophy. Everything that he talks about is implementable, application-oriented, practical. So Prabhupada talks about Vigyan, applied science, not just Gyan. Right? So the first part is Gyan, the second part is Vigyan. So here, in the first part, various aspects have been called. The soul is called Dehi, the material body is called Deha. We call, right, Dehosmin, and we, in Bhagavad Gita also, there has been talked about that, the environment around us can change. We can face winter, summer, but you need to tolerate, right? A dhira will tolerate any changes in the weather. Similarly, he can withstand anything which can be causing distress or happiness. He's oblivious to it. So similarly here, there is Dehi, which is soul, and Deha, which is the body. And the body is changing. And see, that's the interesting part here. It's told in science that every 7 years we get a fresh body. That means every cell in our body has got replenished with a new cell. In a period of 7 years, almost every cell would have got rejuvenated with a new one. Right? Every cell in the body completely. So that way the body is changing. And if we compare our photographs also of our kindergarten school and of present day, we'll see that we are looking at actually two different individuals. Absolutely very little similarity except for those basic features here and there. But you're looking at an absolutely brand new individual. While the soul is the same, it has not changed. Only thing that has changed in this bodily changes the evolution of our consciousness, our ability to comprehend, our maturity in handling things, our ability to grasp new things, the knowledge that we acquired, that has changed over a period of time. And of course, the bodily part. On one who has understood the fixed position of the soul should not be disturbed by the incoming and outgoing interactions of the modes of material nature in the form of happiness and distress. In Bhagavad Gita also, Lord recommends that since happiness and distress come and go due to the interaction of the modes of nature, one should not be disturbed by such external movements. So, the fact that the realization that I am at the influence of any of these three modes, mode of goodness, passion, and ignorance, which influences my behavior on a day-to-day basis. That is very important. Now, this realization that we are under the influence of three modes prevents a lot of bad behavior at any point in time. That self-realization that sometimes we might have spoken a harsh word with our spouse or anybody, any relative, a friend of ours, a close aide, or even devotees. But as long as we are able to realize what I have spoken is probably grievous, it might have caused harm to the other person. As long as we develop that sensitivity and the realization, I think we're in a good track. So even though one is sometimes absorbed in those external movements, he has to learn to tolerate them. So many times people may mistreat us. So if you are able to develop a realization that it is my own karma which is coming back to me in the form of that other person who's causing me grief, if you are able to get that realization, we'll be able to appreciate that much of what is happening in my life is perhaps my own doing, and the other person has very little influence because he is speaking through my karma. Right? So that is the action and reaction of the external body, which can make the living entity indifferent. Those realizations, as long as we get marinated in that philosophy, we'll be able to get the realizations much sooner than later. So this is the theory part. The soul is constant. The body keeps changing. The reactions that we go through is due to the modes of nature. And also, we should not be bothered or absorbed or too much affected by those external movements. That's the theory or the philosophy. Let's look at the practical application. So here, to complete the philosophy further, Prabhupada completes the composition of body, which is earth, water, fire, air, and sky, and the subtle elements. This is the mind, intelligence, and ego. So how they are different from the soul. The practical, here's where he gives the recipe. The practical process to attain the stage of indifference is to execute devotional service, which is suhridam, right? Which is so pleasure-giving. Once one constantly engages in the devotional service 24 hours, I'm not sure how many of us can do that 24 hours a day, one can really become indifferent to the action and reaction of the external body. When a man is absorbed in a particular thought, he does not. So typically, many a times, let's say we come back from work and we are in a home setup. Our spouse is speaking to us. It has at least happened to me several times. I'm lost in some office thoughts and some passage of conversations have happened and I've not paid attention. And of course, I get taunted later for that. But here, just like when we get absorbed in thoughts, we lose the thought process or lose the conversations that happen adjacent to us. Similarly, when we develop devotional service, when we develop this attitude to serve the Lord, 24 hours a day, that would mean serving through mind, body, soul, any of this, manasa, vacha, karma, then we will develop that indifference to external activities. Similarly, those who are absorbed and do not care what is going on with the external body, that's a very difficult platform to be in. Now, the exemplary example that comes to my mind is His Holiness Jayapataka Swami Maharaj, who has gone through a lot in the last decade or little over a decade, bodily, kind of went through multiple operations after his stroke, liver transplant, kidney transplant. But Maharaj's enthusiasm remains undeterred. He's still a powerhouse when it comes to any sabha, any place, anywhere where he has to talk about Krishna Katha. He's like a powerhouse. So the bodily ailments, and he's a very practical example of how bodily ailments and bodily discomfort has not subdued or reduced his Krishna consciousness. It in fact has exemplified it further. So that status is called samadhi. So one who's situated in samadhi is understood to be first-class yogi. Now, what are the stages up to getting to samadhi? Anybody can talk through? There are about roughly 8 stages to get to samadhi as a yogi. And can anyone talk through any of them? Hare Krishna. Anybody? Any question? I mean, you can make an attempt. There's no right or wrong here. It's a safe ground. You can be very open. No issues. Okay. So I'll probably drop a...
Prabhuji, may I say?
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, then dhyana, samadhi. Prabhuji,
Yes.
it is going in the stepwise like this. First, we have to meditate. Then we have to follow the rules. I'm not sure whether it is correct, Prabhuji. I'm just saying.
No.
First, they will start leaving unnecessary things like following 4 regulative principles. Then they will start following certain rules. That is niyama. Then the asana is sitting on the kusa grass and giving a posture for meditation and all that. They will sit on the kusa grass and meditate. Then pranayama means we will be controlling the breath. Then pratyahara is unnecessary eating or collecting unnecessary things. Pratyahara, prayashasta. Then dharana, I don't know, Prabhuji. Dhyana is meditation.
Correct. Dharana is initial stage of meditation where you try to concentrate your mind in one thought, on a mantra or on a visual of the Lord. So you're attempting to get to dhyana stage as part of the dharana. So when you endure it, when you do it consistently for a period of time, that means you've gotten into a penance, right? You've gotten into a meditation. So dhyana is a minified form of dharana. Dharana is a minified form of dhyana. And after dhyana, you get into samadhi. So that means what Prabhupada is saying is that what takes 8 steps to get from yama niyama to samadhi, which Mataji very beautifully summarized for the benefit of all of us. Same benefit you're getting through devotional service directly by practicing. Of course, you need to endure, you need to chant, follow our basically devotional practice very well. Basically, render devotional service, do it through the 9 limbs of devotional practice, hearing, chanting, worshipping, etc., etc. So when we do that consistently, we get into a state of samadhi, but it is not as laborious as the yoga ladder, right? The 8 stages of yoga. So that's what is being talked about. Any questions before we move to the next one? Okay. So I'll go on to the next one. भिन्नस्य लिंगस्य गुण प्रवाहो द्रव्य क्रियाकारक चेतनात्मनः दृष्टासु संपत्सु विपत्सु सूरयो न विक्रिये मयि बद्ध सौहृदाः. Anybody wants to recite the shloka again? And then
Yes, Prabhu,
yes.
I can try.
Yes, Mataji,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Vinnasya lingasya guna pravaho dravya kriyaakarak chetanatmanah dristasu sampatsu vipatsu suryo na vikriyante mai baddha sahridah.
Very nice.
Can
Very
I-
nice, Mataji. Yes. Yes. Anybody wants to read
Thank
the translation? Then we'll do the same. Anyone?
May I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, please go ahead.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Vishnu told King Prithu, "My dear king, the constant change of this material world is due to the interaction of the 3 modes of material nature, the 5 elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses, as well as the mind, which is agitated by the spirit soul. All these taken together comprise the body. Since the spirit soul is completely different from this combination of gross and subtle material elements, my devotee who is connected with me in intense friendship and affection, being completely in knowledge, is never agitated by material happiness and distress." Thank you,
Thank you.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Anyone wants to read the first para?
Shall I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, go ahead. Please.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The question may be raised that if the living entity has to act as superintendent of the activities of the bodily combination, then how can he be indifferent to the activities of the body? The answer is given here. These activities are completely different from the activities of the spirit soul of the living entity. A crude example can be given in this connection. A businessman riding in a motor car sits in the car, supervises its running, and advises the driver. He knows how much gasoline is used up and he knows everything about the car, but still he is apart from the car and is more concerned with his business. Even while riding in the car, he thinks of his business and his office. He has no connection with the car, although he is sitting there. As the businessman is always absorbed in thoughts of his business, so the living entity can be absorbed in the thoughts of rendering loving service to the Lord. Then it will be possible to remain separate from the activities of the material body. This position is neutrality can be possible only for a devotee. Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranams.
Thank you so much, Mataji. Okay, we'll go to the next para also, then we'll discuss. Anybody wants to read the next para? Bhatta Sauhruda.
I can read.
Yes, Mataji,
Okay.
please go ahead.
The word Baddha Suhrada, bound in friendship, is particularly used here. Karmis, Gyanis, and Yogis cannot be bound in devotional service. Karmis fully engage in the activities of the body. Their aim of life is to give comfort to the body only. Gyanis try to get out of entanglement by philosophical speculation, but they have no standing in the liberated position because they do not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord. They fall down from the exalted position of Brahman realization. Yogis also have a bodily concept of life. They think that they can achieve something spiritual by exercising the body through dharana, asana, pranayam, etc. A devotee's position is always transcendental because of his intimate relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, to remain always aloof from the actions and reactions of the body and engage in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord, can be possible only for devotees. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So here, very beautifully, Prabhupada, see, that's the beauty of Prabhupada's purport. The strength of these purports come from a lot of analogies. Now, Prabhupada has called out a beautiful analogy how a person who's supervising the body, who's supervising the body? In this example of car and a businessman, what does car represent here?
Our
Anyone?
body,
Body,
Yes. And
Yeah.
businessman represents the
soul.
soul,
soul. Okay. So the businessman has all the metrics with him. Okay, how much is the gasoline consumed? However, he's still absorbed in the thoughts of his business. And our business is Krishna consciousness. So like this, we can be, however, it doesn't mean that you are callous towards body requirements. For example, it's not that you need to starve yourself. Anyone has to starve themselves, or they need to take up some crazy lifestyle. So one needs to answer the needs of the body, right? Whatever the body needs, that much has to be performed. For example, getting good sleep, waking up, doing some minimum repair to the body so that it can serve the Lord well. Not that get fantasized by the bodily notion, and we'll come down how, it's very easy to slip into, I need to take care of my body for practicing bhakti, and do a little more, index a little more in that area, and actually start to become a karmi, right? Who are solely into the bodily consciousness. They want to do everything to comfort the body, follow a good regimen of exercise, eat so well that they are so much involved in the bodily aspect. 24/7, they're meditating on body. What should I eat next? What should I wear next? How should I enjoy? How should I sense gratify? They're 24 hours in that imagination. So we don't want to get there. So it's possible to render loving service to the Lord, yet doing enough to keep the body, right? So that's what Prabhupada talks through businessman and car analogy. Now, this neutrality can be possible only for a devotee, because a devotee always understands the higher purpose. One who indexes so much in with the bodily conception automatically becomes a karmi. And therefore, Prabhupada talks about the three classes: karmis, jnanis, and yogis. So karmis, very clear, they're only living to give comfort to the body only. Let's find how I can sense gratify, right? So that's completely in the bodily consciousness. Jnanis try to get entanglement by, what is that philosophical speculation? Can anyone talk about this? This particular statement. Jnanis try to get out of entanglement by philosophical speculation, but they have no standing in the liberated position. Anyone can talk through this statement?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji,
Yes.
this is explained in Bhagavad Gita, I think, 4th chapter, Prabhuji.
Okay. Please.
It says that
Mhm.
Jnana is always thinking of the philosophical thinkings,
Mm.
but they were not up to the mark of the devotees. They were not accepting this the form of the And Mataji, Prabhuji, I can't able to explain the form of the, you know,
Right.
no, sorry, I can't.
No,
I
that's
can
okay.
he'll talk in
Yeah.
English, Kannada, but it is not possible for me in English. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, no issues. No issues. So here, the aspect is Gyanis try to interpret Lord through scriptures only. Like, like for example, uh, philosophical speculation could be something like Sankhya Yoga, right? Where through mathematics, through that enumeration, they try to understand Lord, right? And they have no standing in the liberated position means even by doing all this, there is no guarantee that they'll get liberated because a fall down from a jnani's position is imminent. It's very easy to fall down, right? Because when you try to understand the Lord through an analytical study, it is very difficult to, first of all, understand the infinite by finite means, right? Uh, can I find the infinite by just the finite methods that I have? Very difficult. So what can happen is over a period of time, I can get frustrated because none of those methods seem to be working in a way which can satisfy me completely. So what can happen is when satisfaction goes down, it's likely that the person will fall down, right? And that is what is being talked about. Because they do not take shelter under the lotus feet of the Lord, they fall down from the exalted position of Brahman realization, right? Uh, and what is Brahman realization here? Anybody knows what is Brahman realization?
So Brahman realization is to reach till the point of Brahma Jyoti.
Yes, that's correct. What are the other two features of the Lord?
So it's a Brahman, and then after that is a Paramatma realization, and the last one is Bhagwan realization.
Fantastic. Yes. So Brahman realization is like essentially feeling the sunlight or seeing the sunlight from a distance. Right? And essentially, the other one, the Paramatma realization is being able to see the form of the sun from a distance and appreciate that, oh, this light is actually coming from this form of the sun from a distance. And what is Bhagavan realization? Prabhupada uses this analogy of sun to describe the three. What is Bhagavan realization? The third one.
So yeah, so Bhagwan realization is when you reach to the sun globe, inside the sun globe, and
Yes.
staying there like that. Yeah.
Yeah. When you reach the sun globe and you're able to see that sun god in person, right? Then you're able to see, okay, it is sun god who's orchestrating all the sunlight through this circular structure, as an example, in the form of the sun from a distance that we see. And that is so all of them are the levels of realization. So it goes up as we go further. So none of us want to be stuck at Brahman realization. We want to go up to Bhagavan. And yogis also have bodily concept. So this is something we discussed in the previous shloka. Yama, Niyama, then Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, uh, Dharana, Dhyana, Samadhi at the end. So that's the sequence you're talking about. And we don't want to be like yogis who want to achieve through this medium of yogic ladder. Therefore, to stay aloof from the actions and reaction, one needs to engage the body and in one's real occupation, namely rendering service to the Lord. That is only possible for devotees. That means we use all our the senses that we have in gratifying the senses of the Lord. Eyes to look at the deity form of the Lord, hands to serve the Lord in any which way, like by decorating the Lord, by decorating the Lord, by putting nice dress on him, or by basically stitching garlands, or by any other means, right? Then legs to walk to a temple or to the altar that we have at home, and like that, right? And so on and so forth. And then we render. That's the most uh, practical way of engaging in devotional service. None of the other mediums, when you go down the Karmi path, Jnani path, Yogi path, anyone is going to be frustrated because all these methods are very difficult to implement, not very practical. But when we look at Lord as a person, right, instead of an illuminant sunlight which is coming at a distance, which is very hard to relate, all of us can relate if we know somebody as a person, right? We know what are the likes and dislikes of the person, how does the person talk, how does that person sit, how does he reciprocate. So first of all, that Bhagavan realization, when we look at Lord as a person, it becomes very easy for us to perform devotional services to him, right? We can decorate him, we can share our heart with him, we can, just like we would do with any person in our lives, right? So that becomes very practical. So therefore, that is the best way to basically develop Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness is the best way for God realization. So here, there's another interesting thing that has been mentioned, not really covered in the purport. The five elements, the senses, the demigods who control the senses. Can anyone take an example how demigods control our senses? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Prabhuji, sorry.
Yes, bro. No problem.
Maybe,
Uh,
maybe.
Hmm.
Ayyo Deva. So,
You speak in Kannada, Prabhu. We'll see how much we can understand.
ಈ ಡೆಮಿಗಾಡ್ಸ್ ಏನು ದೇವತೆಗಳು ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದ ಇಂದ್ರಿಯಗಳ ಮೇಲೆ ಹಿಡಿತ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತವೆ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಇಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಓವರ್ ದಿ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಎವರಿ ಡೆಮಿಗಾಡ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ದೇವತಾಸ್ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಓವರ್ ದಿ ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್. ಸೊ ಆನ್ ದಟ್ behalf only if they permits, the senses will act like that.
Fair point. So I'll give an example here, which Prabhupada quotes in many of his purports. Like the eye that we have is controlled by light, right? So if there is no light, there's no point of these eyes. If absolutely it's pitch darkness, nobody needs eyes. So eyes are controlled by light, and light is disseminated by sun rays, right? The light is disseminated by sun rays. Sun rays are controlled by sun, right? Or sun is the source of those sun rays. And sun becomes the demigod for our eyes. So anyway, if anyone has a trouble with his eyes, it's always told that, you should worship Aditya, which is sun god. Similarly, mind is controlled by moon. So that way, hands are controlled by Indra, as an example. Like that. Genitals by Prajapati, and, there is a big list. So demigods have the departmental responsibility of controlling the senses for all the jivatmas in this material world. So Lord orchestrates the controllership or the management of senses through demigods. So they are his subsidiaries. They are his sevaks in that area. Any questions before we go to the next one? I just wanted to make sure we cover the four shlokas. Okay, we'll go to the next one. Samah samanotama madhyamatamah sukhe cha dukhe cha trichendriyasayah mayopaklipta kila loka samyuto vidatsva vira kila loka rakshanam.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, may I read translation?
You can read the shloka again, Mataji. These are very beautiful shlokas.
Sure.
It's okay.
Prabhuji.
Don't worry about pronunciation and all that. That's fine.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hmm.
Samaha samanottama madhyamadamaha sukhe cha dukhe cha jitendri yashayaha mayo
Mayopaklipta kila.
Sorry, Prabhuji.
Mayopaklipta kila loka samyuto. Yeah.
Mayo plaklupta kila loka sanyuto vidhastasva virakila loka rakshanama.
Yes,
Thank you,
thank you so
Prabhuji.
much. Very good, Mataji. So let's go to the translation. Anybody wants to read it?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes, please go ahead, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Giridhar Prabhu.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. My dear heroic king, please keep yourself always equipoised and treat people equally, whether they are greater than you in the intermediate stage or lower than you. Do not be disturbed by temporary distress or happiness. Fully control your mind and senses. In this transcendental position, try to execute your duty as king in whatever condition of life you may be posted by my arrangement. For your only duty here is to give protection to the citizens of your kingdom. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu.
Shall I continue with the purport?
Yes, please go ahead. There are two paras. First para you can read. Please
Yes,
go ahead.
Prabhu. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Here is an example of receiving direct instruction from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Vishnu, one has to execute the order of Lord Vishnu, whether receiving it directly from him or from his bona fide representative, the spiritual master. Arjuna fought the battle of Kurukshetra under the direct order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Similarly, here, Prithu Maharaj is also being given orders by Lord Vishnu regarding the execution of his duty. We have to stick to the principles stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. Every man's duty is to receive orders from Lord Krishna or from his bona fide representative and take these orders as his life and soul without personal considerations. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura states that one should not care very much whether he is going to be liberated or not, but he should simply execute the direct order received from the spiritual master. If one sticks to the principle of abiding by the order of the spiritual master, he will always remain in a liberated position. A common man must execute the rules and regulations of Varna Ashrama Dharma by working in his prescribed duty according to the caste system Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Sudra, and the spiritual order system Brahmacharya, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasa. If one simply executes regularly and strictly the injunctions given for the different divisions of life, then one satisfies Lord Vishnu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Giridhar Prabhu. Anyone wants to read the second para?
May I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Go ahead, please.
As a king, Prithu Maharaja was ordered by Lord Vishnu to keep himself always aloof from the activities of the bodily situation and to engage always in the service of the Lord and thus keep himself in the liberated stage. The word Buddha
Bhatta Saurudha.
Saurudha in the previous verse is explained herewith. One can fully remain in intimate connection with the Supreme Lord directly or receive orders from his bona fide representative, the spiritual master, and execute the order sincerely when one keeps aloof from the activities of the body. The Lord helps us by giving us directions how to act in devotional service and thus advance on the path of back home, back to Godhead. He instructs us outwardly in the form of the spiritual master. Therefore, one should not accept the spiritual master as an ordinary human being. The Lord says, Acharyam mama vijnanayam nava manyate Kachit. One should not treat the spiritual master as an ordinary human being, or for he is the substitute for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Bhagavatam 11.17.27. One should treat the spiritual master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead and never be envious of him or consider him to be an ordinary human being. If we follow the instructions of the spiritual master and execute devotional service to the Lord, we will remain always free from the contamination of bodily and material activities, and our life will be successful. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Krishnamurti Prabhu. Yes, so here, a couple of points Prabhupada has made very nicely. The first thing Prabhupada talks about here is the presence or instructions coming from spiritual master. Who's spiritual master in this passage, in this shloka? Who's the spiritual master?
Vishwanath
Anyone?
Chakravarti Das Thakur.
No, not in this passage, as in the second para, but in the shloka itself. Who's the spiritual master?
Mahavishnu only.
Yes. Lord Vishnu is giving the instructions to Prithu Maharaj on how to administer. So these are instructions coming from Lord Vishnu, who is serving as spiritual master, because he is coming as the Yajna Purusha. He's coming as the person who needs to be pleased from the Yajna. He's coming there giving direct instructions. We may not be as that fortunate to have Lord Vishnu directly come and talk to us. So, but Lord Vishnu is still Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu is very merciful that he sends to us a spiritual master who can address our queries and we can take shelter of that spiritual master and make our life perfect, right? And that is sent for everyone, right? Everyone gets that opportunity. We can exercise our minute independence in finding that spiritual master with whom we have a match, right? Everybody has some preferences. So there's a two-way match that happens. And then we basically accept one senior sannyasi as our spiritual master, right? So spiritual master is a representative of a god. He cannot be treated as a common man. He's not a common man. He's Supreme Lord himself, who's designated as a spiritual master to give us instructions. So that is one. The second thing is that here, Prabhupada talks about how Lord Vishnu has spoken of the Varnashrama Dharma. Basically, he's talked about how people lower than, upper than, or equal to, they need to be treated, right? That's something we need to, even in when we are going out for a profession in an office setup, we need to have the right etiquette of speaking to juniors, equals, and seniors, right? And these are instructions we can use in our real life also. Absolutely. And here, what pleases Lord Vishnu has been talked about. What pleases Lord Vishnu is adherence to Varnashrama Dharma. And that's where Prabhupada has basically dissected it as there are four types of, four categories, which are Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. Brahmana comes from the mouth of the Lord. Kshatriya comes from the hands of the Lord. Vaishya comes from the waist, and Shudra comes from the legs. But they are all part of the body of the Lord. Like we do not distinguish our body parts, right? We do not say hands are better than legs. We don't say that, right? We give them the same respect. We give them the same attention. Similarly, all the four classes have to be given the same respect. And there is a stages of life from brahmacharya to sannyasa. Of course, this last one is not going to be very prominent in our lives. We'll probably stop at vanaprastha at some point, maybe, depending on how our life goes about. But these are the combinations. And when we address our life according to the injunctions of Varnashrama Dharma, that satisfied Lord Vishnu, right? That is what Prabhupada is mentioning here. And then Prabhupada further talks about the importance of spiritual master, the orders given by spiritual master, how we have to take it to our heart and we have to make it our heart and soul and carry along. And when we do all this, that's how we become aloof from the body, because we are constantly meditating on those instructions and working on them, right? And one should treat the spirituality master as the supreme personality of Godhead and never be envious of him or consider him as that we discussed. If we follow the instructions of the spiritual master and execute the devotional practice, service of the Lord, we'll always remain from the contamination of the body and material activities, and our life will be successful. So here, first of all, Supreme Lord has given instructions on how to run the entire kingdom with full control on mind and senses. A king has to be diligent about the needs of the praja. He cannot take extreme positions. He needs to consult. Usually in those days, Kshatriyas used to take consultation from some top-class Brahmanas. When I say top-class Brahmanas, I'm not talking about caste as such. I'm talking about Brahmanas who are pure, who do not have any vested interests, who are very truthful to the scriptures and reveal the essence of scriptures to the consulting Kshatriyas. Right? So that way, Kshatriyas will take the right decision. Brahmanas are unaffected by, they are operating in the mode of goodness. They are unaffected by the other modes. They give the right advice to Kshatriyas. Kshatriyas do the right thing for all the classes of the society, including Shudras. Everyone in the ecosystem is happy. That's how the kingdoms used to be run in the past. Okay? So that's what. Any questions? We'll move to the next one. We have 2 more shlokas to cover. Any questions? Okay, we'll go to the Shreya Prajapalanam eva rajño yatsam paraye sukritat sastamam sam hartan yata hrita punya prajanam arakshita karaharogam hati. Well, anyone who wants to read? Maybe I'll read this once. Shreya prajapalanam eva rajño yatsam paraye sukritat sastamam sam hartan yata hrita punya prajanam arakshita karaharogamati. Yeah. Anyone wants to read the shloka again?
Can I read, please?
Yes, yes.
श्रेयः प्रजापालनमेव राज्ञो यत् साम्पराये सुकृतात् षष्ठमंशम् हर्तान्यथा हृतपुण्यः प्रजानाम् अरक्षिताकरहारोघम् अति. Hare Krishna. Okay.
Thank you, Mataji. Anyone wants to read the purport? Translation.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shall I read? Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu. Please go ahead.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. To give protection to the general mass of people who are citizens of the state in the prescribed occupational duty for a king. By acting in that way, the king in his next life shares 1/6 of the result of the pious activities of the citizens. But a king or executive head of the state who simply collects taxes from the citizens but does not give them proper protection as human beings has the results of his own pious activities taken away by the citizens, and in exchange for his not giving protection, he becomes liable to punishment for the impious activities of his subjects. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Prabhu. Let's go to the purport. Who wants to read the first one?
Prabhuji, may I read the purport?
Yes, Mataji. Please go ahead.
Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The question may be raised here that if everyone engaged in spiritual activities to attain salvation and become indifferent to the activities of the material world, then how could things as they go on? And if things are to go on as they ought to, how can a head of state be indifferent to such activities? In answer to this question, the word Shreya, auspicious, is used here. The division of activities in society as arranged by the Supreme Personality of Godhead was not blindly or accidentally created as foolish people say. The Brahmana must do his duty properly, and the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, and even the Sudra must do the same. And every one of them can achieve the highest perfection of life, liberation from this material bondage. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 18.45, Sve Sve Karmani Abhiratah Samsiddhim Labate Naraha. By executing one's prescribed duties, one can attain the highest perfection. May I continue?
Yes, Mataji. I don't think anybody else has raised hand. Please continue, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Lord Vishnu advised Maharaja Prithu that a king is not enjoined to give up his kingdom and the responsibility of protecting the prajas or citizens to instead go away the Himalayas for liberation. He can attain liberation while executing his royal duties. The royal duty or the duty of the head of the state is to see that prajas or the general mass of the people are doing their respective duties for spiritual salvation. A secular state does not necessitate a king or head of the state who is indifferent to the activities of the prajas. In the modern state, the government has many rules and regulations for conducting the duties of prajas, but the government neglects to see that the citizens advance in spiritual life language. If the government is careless in this matter, the citizens will act whimsically without any sense of God realization or spiritual life, and thus become entangled in sinful activities.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you,
Mataji.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Anybody wants to read the third one? Third para? Yes, Krishnamurti Prabhu, please go ahead. Yes. Hare Krishna. Prabhu has raised his hands. Maybe he's speaking. Prabhu, you may be speaking on mute if you're speaking.
Sorry, Prabhuji, I am sorry.
Yeah. Yes.
An executive head should not be callous to the welfare of the general mass of the people, while he simply goes on collecting taxes. The king's real duty is to see that the citizens gradually become fully Krishna consciousness. Krishna conscious means completely free from all sinful activities. As soon as there is complete eradication of sinful activities in the state, then there will be no more war, pestilence, famine, or natural disturbances. This was actually prevailing during the reign of Maharaja Yudhishthira. If a king or head of the government is liable to induce the citizens to become Krishna consciousness, then he is worthy to rule over the mass of people. Otherwise, he has no right to levy taxes. If the king looks after the spiritual interest of the citizens, he can levy taxes without difficulties. In this way, both the subjects and the king will be happy during this life. And in the next life, the king will be able to share 1/6 of the pious activities of the citizens. Otherwise, by levying taxes on the sinful citizens, he will have to share the reactions of their sinful activities. This same principle can be applied to parents and spiritual masters as well. If parents simply give birth to children like cats and dogs, but cannot save their children from imminent death, they become responsible for the activities of their animalistic children. Lately, such children are turning to hippies. Similarly, if a spiritual master cannot direct his disciples to become free of sinful activities, he becomes responsible for their sinful acts. These subtle laws of nature are unknown to the present leaders of society. Since the leaders of the society have a poor fund of knowledge, and the citizens in general are rogues and thieves, there cannot be an auspicious situation for human society. At the present moment, the whole world is full of such an incompatible combination of state of citizens, and therefore there is constant tension, war, and anxiety as an inevitable result of such social conditions. Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. So, very interesting purport, a very detailed one, where Prabhupada talks about the fact that, the responsibility of a leader is so critical. If a leader performs well, does the right things, he can take 1/6 of the pious activities. Otherwise, he'll take all the sins, a collective sins of the entire praja. Can you imagine how big that burden can be? If somebody has to take the first is the sins committed by the person itself. That itself is something one can't get rid of in few lifetimes. Imagine collective sins of the entire praja. That may include animals also. So, so therefore, leadership positions are to be very carefully selected. The person who's aspiring for that role, and the fact that the people who are choosing that person, everybody has to be careful. So that is being talked about. The consequences are grave if one doesn't get it right. The other one is that everyone in this ecosystem, we talked about it in the previous shloka, how every varnashram dharma, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmana, all of them, they are doing their duties, and therefore the society is very organized, very peaceful, no bloodshed, no wars, no dharna and all those that we see in present day. So the second one is more about the fact that one cannot artificially give up his duty and just go for a tour to Himalayas, seeking liberation. If someone has been given a leadership position, he has to play that role. He cannot artificially uh, take basically he cannot artificially go to forest or evade that responsibility. That is not an option, right? And here Prabhupada mentions a very interesting point. A secular state does not necessitate a king or head of state who's indifferent to the activities of the praja. What Prabhupada is trying to say here is, typically, anyone who says I'm secular means I am not favoring a particular religion, right? That's what it means. So a secular state does not necessitate, even if a state says that a state's position is that I'm not swinging to a particular religion. I don't favor one religion over another. Who's indifferent to the active? What is the activities of the praja? The activities of the praja is advancement in spiritual knowledge. What Prabhupada is trying to say here is, even though a state may say that it's secular, it cannot stay away from the activities of the praja, which is going to be religious. So a state has to be invested in the praja. As long as the praja is invested in religious activities, the whole setup is very amicable. It is very law-abiding. It tends to self-organize, right? Without that, the whole system goes into sinful activity. So a state can never claim that it's truly secular because it is invested in the activities of the praja, which will include religious activities as well. Right? So that is a very interesting point Prabhupada is making here. The third one is more around the fact that a king has to look after the spiritual interests. He can, so as long as the spiritual interests of the citizens are taken care, the king can jolly well apply taxes on that, right? Otherwise, he takes care of the 1/6 of the, and he can own the 1/6 of the pious activities. Otherwise, he's only going to inherit sins, right? So a king's involvement in praja's spiritual activities is super critical. Only then he can deliver not just the praja, but himself also. And here, one who doesn't take care of those responsibilities, what is their destiny? That's what Prabhupada is calling out. A spiritual master who cannot deliver his disciples, a parent or parents who produce children and just let them go scot-free and do not give them any values, what happens, right? They become responsible for the activities of those children. So parenting is a leadership position. Kingship is a leadership position. Spiritual master is a leadership position. These positions have super critical, there's a very high currency attached to these positions, and they cannot be treated lightly. Right? And people who accept such positions and people who are working under those positions means the praja also gives them respect, and the kings or the leaders, they also do the right thing for the praja. It's a mutual relationship. In absence of that, it can only lead to chaos, tension, war, incompetent leaders. It's all cyclic. Incompetent leaders, see, from incompetent praja comes because somebody has to be voted to a leadership position. So from that incompetence, incompetent leaders will surface. They will superimpose incompetent policies on such people, on the praja, and it just becomes a vicious cycle, and there's no end to it. So we'll go to the last one. Any questions? Just quickly finish. I know you're very... Yes, Prabhu. Please go ahead.
The state head,
Hmm.
if you go and tell about all these things to the state heads, will they hear, Prabhuji? Will they realize? Will they realize?
Yes, that's a very good question. What is been commonly talked about is if religiosity increases in the praja, right? If let's say, hypothetical, if let's say a good percentage of people become religious in India, they take to, let's say, Krishna consciousness, they are God-fearing, they are God-conscious. Now, what has happened is the base has become a majority now. They are like, we are as if we are moving from Kali Yuga to Satyuga, as an example, because all the goodness, right things are happening. Now the election will happen from people who are already fortunate, people who are already self-disciplined, having high values. When someone gets elected from such a praja, they will naturally do the right thing. You got my point, Prabhu? So it's
Yes,
going
I
to
do
be,
agree.
yeah, it's going to be a reformation over over many years that it will happen. Fortunately, I think not taking any political sides, but the current leadership seems to be a little bit aligned to religiosity. So that's the benefit we have. Okay.
Whereas in states, Prabhuji, it is so miserable, Prabhuji.
Yes.
So miserable.
Unfortunately,
So yes,
I agree.
and we-
I agree.
yeah.
So
So shall
the
we say
only
what will happen? Let Supreme Lord only save us.
yes. So we have to repose. See, first thing, we read in the first few passages how we have to detach ourselves from the activities of the present society, right? And if we stay focused in the Lord, the misery that we feel from the governance will be little to none, right? Because we have given up our hearts to the Lord. We are constantly thinking of Him, serving Him, and Lord will take care. And that's that faith we will have to keep. So once we follow the devotional practice, since we have lost our hearts to the Lord, He will ensure that even if there's the governance is not to our taste, it doesn't come in a way in a big way, right? The governance still doesn't bother us so much because our path is still very clear. So that will happen. So we'll go to the last one. I know I'm really out of time here, but we'll try to finish this fast. एवं द्विजाक्रियानुमता एवं द्विजाक्रियानुमतानुवृता धर्म प्रदानोन्यतमो वितात्स्ययः ह्रस्वेन कालेन गृहोपयातान् दृष्टासि सिद्धान् अनुरक्तलोकः. Anybody wants to read the shloka again? I couldn't get this right.
Shall I, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, Divya Mataji. Please go ahead.
एवं द्विजाग्र्या नुमतानुव्रत धर्म प्रदानोन्य तमोवितास्याः रस्वेन कालेन ग्रहोपयातान् दृष्टासि सिद्धा ननुरक्तलोकः. हरे कृष्ण.
Thank you, Mataji. Anybody wants to read the translation?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Shall I read, Prabhuji?
Yes, please go ahead.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Lord Vishnu continued, My dear King Prithu, if you continue to protect the citizens according to the instructions of the learned Brahmana authorities as they are received by the disciplic succession, by hearing from master to disciple, and if you follow the religious principles laid down by them without attachment to ideas manufactured by mental concoction, then every one of your citizens will be happy and will love you. And very soon you will be able to see such already liberated personalities as the four Kumaras, Sanaka, Sanadana, Sanandana, Sanat Kumara. Shall I continue, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhu, please continue the first. I did see somebody, I think Sindhu Mataji or someone raising the hand. So you can continue.
If Sindhu Mataji wants to read, I'll later read, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Sindhu Mataji,
Yeah,
did you raise your hand?
Prabhuji.
Yes, please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
From
Mataji,
second
please.
paragraph.
No, maybe what we can do, let Sindhu Mataji read the first two. Giridhar Prabhu, you can read the last one. Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhu, we'll make it fast.
Very good. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Lord Vishnu advised King Prithu that everyone should follow the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Then, in whatever capacity one remains within this material world, his salvation is guaranteed after death. In this age, however, since the system of Varnashrama Dharma is a topsy-turvy, it's very difficult to strictly follow all the principles. The only method for becoming perfect in life is to develop Krishna consciousness. As Varnashrama Dharma is executed from different positions by different men, So the Krishna consciousness principles can be followed by everyone in every part of the world. There is a specific purpose in mentioning here that one should follow the Vijadyas, the most prominent Brahmanas like Parashara and Manu. These great sages have already given us instructions on how to live according to the principles of Varnashrama Dharma. Similarly, Sanatana Goswami and Rupa Goswami have given us rules and regulations for becoming pure devotees of the Lord. It is essential, therefore, to follow the instructions of the Acharyas in the Parampara system, who have received the knowledge as passed down from the spiritual master to disciple. In this way, although living in our material condition of life, we can get out of the entanglement of material contamination without leaving our positions. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu advises, therefore, that one does not have to change his position. One simply has to hear from the perfect source. This is called parampara, and follow the principles for practical application in life. Thus, one can attain the highest perfection of life, liberation, and go back home, back to Godhead. In other words, the change required is a change in consciousness, not in the body. Unfortunately, in this fallen age, people are concerned with the body, not with the soul. They have invented so many isms pertaining to the body only, not to the soul. Thank you
Hare
for
Krishna.
sharing.
Yes.
In the
Girdhar.
modern age of democracy, there are so many government representatives voting for legislation. Every day they bring out a new law, but because these laws are only mental concoctions manufactured by inexperienced conditioned souls, they cannot give relief to human society. Formerly, although the kings were autocrats, they strictly followed the principles laid down by great sages and saintly persons. There were no mistakes in ruling over the country, and everything went perfectly. The citizens were completely pious. The king levied taxes legitimately, and therefore the situation was very happy. At the present moment, the so called executive heads are more or less selected from materially ambitious persons who simply look after their own personal interests. They have no knowledge of the Shastras. In other words, the executive heads are fools and rascals in the strict sense of the terms, and the people in general are Sudras. This combination of fools and rascals and Sudras cannot bring about peace and prosperity in this world. Therefore, we find periodic upheavals in society in the form of battles, communal riots, and fratricidal quarrels. Under these circumstances, not only are the leaders unable to lead the people toward liberation, but they cannot even give them peace of mind. In Gita, it is stated that anyone who lives on concocted ideas without reference to the Shastras never becomes successful and does not attain happiness or liberation after death. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Girdhar Prabhu and Sindhu Mataji. Yes. So here, Prabhupada has very nicely summarized the essence. So in the previous shloka, we saw how Lord Vishnu is happy when one follows the Varnashrama Dharma. Here, Prabhupada makes it very practical that in current day and age, following Varnashrama Dharma is not easy. First of all, they don't even know their Dharma, right? There is intercaste marriages happening. So people have lost identity of their Dharma itself, which caste or community. Caste not in the sense of caste, but in the sense of the nature, their own inherent nature. So first of all, people have problems in understanding their own nature. What are they suited for? And secondly, through intercaste and other things, the whole thing has become absolutely gray. So Varnashrama Dharma has become impractical to implement. So therefore, what is the golden mantra? Turn on the Krishna consciousness formula. So that makes things much easier. Everybody in the movement has to follow the 4 regulative principles. Everybody follows the Supreme Lord Krishna. They have a spiritual master. There are practices that are very clearly defined, practical to follow, very easy to follow, and there's a complete clarity in terms of what needs to be done, what should not be done, etc., etc. So when one follows that, and these instructions are coming directly from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and who is non-different from Krishna himself. So instructions coming from Mahaprabhu, which we are implementing in the Krishna consciousness movement, and each one of us can make our lives perfect and completely come out from the bodily conception of life, which is what we have read in all the previous shlokas. And the isms that Prabhupada is talking about here is things like communism, nationalism, those isms basically, secularism, right? So all the isms are pertaining to body. For example, if somebody says communism, so somebody says, hey, I'll give you free bread, but you worship me, right? So everything is coming to a bodily concept. Somebody says nationalism, in the sense, in one of the definitions is that it's me and my country, but Krishna consciousness goes beyond the boundaries. It looks at Vasudeva Kutumbakam, right? Everybody is a part and parcel of the Lord. Breaks the notion of countries, religions, all those barriers go away. And because we are targeting the souls, not the body. Because anytime, any nation, any diversity, anything is a bodily concept. We're trying to break those conventions here. And then the last bit is how Prabhupada talks about what used to happen in the past. It was such a well-laid society. Brahmanas used to advise Kshatriyas. They used to run the kingdom wisely with proper ethics. Everybody was self-sufficient. India was a great place, golden era, right? We may see the golden era, I don't know when, but we had a golden era in the past. But now, so it's so happening that most of the praja has become Shudra, and we have leaders who are inept, who have no right, they don't have the aptitude, they don't have the right attitude also, in many cases. And therefore, we have a mess of communal rights, battles, etc. So that's the essence of this purport. So here, Lord also talks about do not act through mental concoction, right? Follow the religious principles laid down in Shastras. Don't run with the figment of anybody's. It should not be run by someone's figment of imagination. Everyone in the citizen will be happy. They will love you, and and as time progresses, they will attain the liberated personalities as the Sanat Kumaras, right, which is mentioned here. So that's the essence of this. I know we are really out of time here. I don't want to hold back. Any questions, please let me know through WhatsApp. I don't want to hold, beyond this time. It's already 9:24. Anything that you find not very clear, please put it in the, I'll get access to those questions somehow. So I'll end the class here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Srila Gurudev ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna,
Thank you so
Prabhuji.
much. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।